Welcome to the Back on Track Achieving Healthy Weight Loss podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Alicia Shelly. Have you been off with your sleep at some point in time? Maybe because you're working the night shift, or maybe it's just really difficult to sleep. You may be going through a lot of stressors and it's just hard to sleep. Well, in my practice, I see a lot of workers who work the night shift, people who are going through stressful situations, and their sleep affects not only their weight loss, their physical health, their mental health. And so today I have expert Sarah Morgan, who is the clinical nutritionist and product inventor, founder, author, inventor, and thought leader in the realm of health and wellness. Also, she's known for her patent technologies and dietary supplements, medical foods, and bioidentical hormones. And she's here to talk a little bit about our circadian health, why it's important, why do we need to know about this, and how do we go about improving our circadian health. Thank you so much for coming on to the podcast, Sarah. We're so happy to have you today.
Oh, thanks so much, Dr. Shelley. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, before we get started, would you mind maybe telling us a little bit more about yourself and kind of how did you get into this space, becoming a clinical nutritionist, circadian health? What was it that kind of led you down this road?
Yeah, I come from a family of cardiologists, so I've always loved medicine, the human body, been fascinated. I was working in Mayo Clinic hospital setting, and I realized, I'm like, gosh, I really believe in the power of food and nutrition to improve human health and be such a tool and foundation. So I pivoted. I didn't go to medical school. This is before nutrition was cool. And I went and got my master's degree in nutrition because nutrition at its core really is biochemistry. So I wanted to have a rigorous program. Worked in clinical practice for a while. And then I realized, gosh, I love creating solutions to problems that people have that will serve a lot of different people. So I've started a couple companies myself, wrote books. I've done all kinds of different things, and currently I serve as head of innovation at Routine.
So, well, share with us a little bit more about what exactly does circadian health mean? What exactly is it, and why is it important?
So the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 2017 was awarded to scientists who actually discovered the mechanisms of circadian health. So I say that because this is new. So breaking news, you should pay attention, right? Leaning in, we're still learning this. I actually got to talk to one of those scientists a couple of weeks ago, and he might be helping us with some of our research that we're looking at doing in the future. So what is circadian health? It is your body's 24-hour cycle. We all have a rhythm, right? As women, we know our cycle's monthly. Well, we have a daily cycle. And this daily cycle regulates most of our human health. It's our sleep-wake cycle, but it's more than just that. It regulates a lot of our hormonal production. So, for example, when we sleep at night, that's when we actually make most of our testosterone. We have a testosterone problem in our, not only country in the United States, but also in our world globally. It impacts immune system function. There's a reason why people get more sick at night, or you feel like your symptoms are worse in the evening and at night, or why do people have more risk of potentially having a heart attack at night versus during the day? It has to do with this rhythm and the different hormones that we make, the different inflammatory substances that are produced. Even things like digestion varies throughout our 24-hour cycle. The more we optimize this rhythm, the healthier we can become.
Right. I like how you said that the more we optimize this rhythm, the healthier we can become. So I mentioned when we first started, there are people who, work night shift, either in the hospital, factories, maybe even nurses who are caregivers that are, are up at night. What are some ways that our circadian health can be kind of pulled off track or what can mess with it?
Well, we now know that, shift work is a risk factor for a lot of different disease states, right? And it's the connection between our circadian health, or when our circadian health, this rhythm is disrupted, and what can happen with things like even cancer and heart disease, right? There's pretty good research about that now. So how does our circadian rhythm get off? One, it can be you're a night shift worker, so you have to be up at night. And you're working and you're kind of flipping your schedule. There's also a lot of people who travel for work. So they're flipping time zones. They're traveling across, maybe it's 2 hours, maybe it's 8 hours, and all of a sudden you're in a totally different time zone. We also mess with our circadian rhythm in modern medicine, Dr. Shelley, with things like screens, right? Light is one of the main modulators of this 24-hour rhythm. So we want to get light exposure in the morning from the sun without sunglasses on. like 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be long. And the same thing at night, if possible, because our cells in our retina are actually part of our brain, and they tell our brain what's happening and what hormones we should produce at different times. So gamers, people who are scrolling on social media late at night, those are also things like the daily people. Maybe you're not a shift worker, but like you're on Instagram or TikTok before bed. And then all of a sudden you're like, why can't I sleep? And all of a sudden I feel really awake, because that blue light stimulates your brain. We actually know that an hour of iPad reading before bed delays your melatonin release. That's your sleep hormone by 3 hours. And it decreases the amount of melatonin your brain will make by 50%. So even, just right? I know. or another, tool, because I believe, we can still like figure out ways to be healthy in modern world, is wear blue light blocking glasses at night. So they have almost like a rosy red tint to them. And that helps your brain stay on track with producing melatonin, that sleep hormone, at the right time.
That's a really good suggestion. Oh, excellent. Well, how does the circadian rhythm or your circadian health affect your weight?
Oh, that's a good one. Okay, so another major hormone that we don't talk about a lot, that's a circadian hormone, is cortisol. So a lot of times we hear cortisol, you as a physician know cortisol is essential to be alive, right? We need cortisol. We think about cortisol a lot as a stress hormone, which it does increase and kind of bounce around in response to stress. But it's a wakeful hormone. It's the part it's produced. We have a peak in the morning. It helps us wake up, get out of bed. And we have a natural rhythm that kind of goes up, and we have a little, dip in the afternoon when we all feel like we want to take a nap. And then it restabilizes a little bit, and it should go down right before bed. And that's when melatonin increases. When we have disruption in our cortisol levels, cortisol also plays a massive role in proper metabolic health, how we burn carbs, fat, protein, and plays a role in insulin signaling. And when cortisol is chronically high, when we're stressed, we're not sleeping well, we got a lot going on, we're kind of running ourselves ragged in that burnout phase, high cortisol can contribute to weight gain, especially around the midsection. And then it's kind of this vicious cycle of we get more inflamed, we have more insulin dysregulation, we just keep gaining weight. And this is really important for women in midlife because of all the hormonal changes that happen. Cortisol is also a precursor to progesterone, right? And it's one of the first hormones that starts to decline as women go into perimenopause. So it's really important to manage your stress, optimize your cortisol as you go into perimenopause, because one, you'll have less symptoms. Two, it's a lot easier to maintain an optimal weight when your cortisol is balanced.
Now, how can one optimize their cortisol?
Lots of things. One is like, go have some fun and laugh, right? And get outside in nature. We know that a walk in nature for about 15, 20 minutes does a better job balancing your cortisol than a nap. It's pretty amazing, the power of nature. Another thing is prioritize protein. I think as we get older, we tend to kind of forget about protein, or it's something that we just, I don't know, it slips by us, but it's massively stabilizing to our blood sugars alongside healthy fats is really important for our diet. And then another thing that you can do to balance your cortisol is making sure that you're sleeping well. Because if we can sleep well and we recharge at night, it helps that we don't have this kind of heightened stress response during the day. The last one I'll add is adaptogens. Adaptogens are different compounds, herbal compounds that help us resist and kind of recover from the effects of stress faster than our bodies could on their own.
Ooh, awesome. Now, what are some adaptogens that people should look out for, or maybe offer?
Yeah, so there's a lot of great adaptogens depending on what you're looking for. But in terms of cortisol optimization, my favorite is ashwagandha. Now, a lot of people have maybe heard of ashwagandha. I really also like rhodiola. Rhodiola has a lot of neuroprotective benefits as well. That's backed up by pretty significant clinical research. Siberian ginseng is another one of my favorites, and astragalus. Astragalus is kind of a longevity adaptogen. It has a lot of really cool immune balancing properties, which our immune systems are taxed when we're under a lot of stress, right? We're more likely to get sick acutely and chronically with different things. So those are a few of my favorites.
Well, going back to our shift workers, our people who are maybe working during the night when they should be sleeping, are there any strategies that you have that can help them with kind of having a little bit better circadian health and as well as cortisol health?
Yeah. So one, I would say those people should 100% use adaptogens, because I think it's just, it's a hard thing to flip your schedule like that. And a lot of shift workers, at least that I know, are bouncing back and forth between night shift, and then they're awake during the day to be with their families and be at activities, which is really challenging. So adaptogens for sure. The other thing is regular schedule as much as possible. So, eating at the same time, that's a signal. If you're waking up in the evening to go to work at night, it's really great to get one of the lights that's almost like mimicking the sun that you can put in front of you for even 10 minutes as you get ready before you go to work. Then when you come home, put on those blue light blockers as you kind of calm yourself back down. And then I think another thing is really utilizing exercise to help keep that rhythm in the right place. For a lot of shift workers, especially healthcare workers that work very, very hard in their shifts, it's probably better to work out before their shift because they're too tired afterwards. But those are a few. And then, eating well is really important to fuel yourself, and staying on, a breakfast, lunch, and dinner for whatever your schedule is a really helpful tool.
Awesome. Those are all great strategies. Now, I know you mentioned the adaptogens. How does somebody know that they're taking the right adaptogen or the right supplement? I know there's a lot of people that sell a lot of snake oil. How does somebody know kind of the difference when it comes to those particular products?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. So some people think the FDA isn't involved in dietary supplements. They very much are involved because of DSHEA laws that were created in 1994. And there's more and more regulation to dietary supplements in a really good way. But a few things to look for is you want to work with a company that has a certified GMP, good manufacturing practices. That means that they're going to follow certain things with their manufacturing to make sure there's not contamination, that the raw materials they're using are good standardized raw materials. They're testing everything before and after in terms of the use and the manufacturing. Another thing is you want to look for a company that does label claim verification, meaning if you look on the supplement facts and it tells you what's in the supplement facts, they have testing from a third-party lab that actually backs that up. You talked about ingredients like adaptogens. How do we know if they're good ingredients? For adaptogens, herbal products, we want to look for things that have standardization of the active compounds. So adaptogens are plant-based, and they have certain compounds that are active compounds in there. So you want to look for something that's like 10% standardized to these active compounds that are going to give you those benefits. So those are a few of the things you want to look for a dietary supplement. And yes, nutrients can be really helpful tools as long as you're actually getting what it says on the label or box, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That makes a big difference. So thank you so much for kind of explaining that and what people can look for. Back to circadian health, are there any adaptogens that may be helpful for people if they are doing the shift work or maybe having difficulties resting at night or during the day?
Yeah, so some of my favorites are, it's interesting when I think of adaptogens, we traditionally think of them as herbal compounds. I define adaptogens more just helping your body adapt to stress and different changes of your schedule. So a couple of my favorites, ashwagandha has very good research for balancing cortisol. So that would be a number one. Another thing that I really love, especially for sleep, for that calming side when you get done with your shift work, is something called phosphatidylserine. It's a phospholipid that helps really calm down your cortisol response, that helps you go into a better sleep cycle. We're actually in the middle of a randomized control trial, seeing the power of these different ingredients of how it can impact sleep. Another adaptogen ingredient for shift workers that I love is magnesium. Magnesium is such a powerful tool. It helps to activate the GABA receptors, which are calming to us And who doesn't need that after a shift, in healthcare, right?
Exactly. Well, awesome. Thank you so much. Well, any last minute advice you have for the audience as they try to optimize their circadian health and their cortisol health? Any thoughts that you may have? Any last minute?
Yeah, I would say just start with some of the simple things. There are you just changing your routine and optimizing your daily routine with light, with food, with going to sleep at the same time, and check out adaptogens. We've got some really cool ones at Routine that we formulated. They're in delicious drink mixes, so it's not a capsule you have to swallow. I like that a lot more. It's like more fun. I make mocktails out of them, and the Sleepy Girl mocktail. We've got a great sleep one as well. So check it out. See what works for your body, and you can feel dramatically better just by optimizing your circadian rhythm in terms of your sleep, your energy levels, your mental health, gut health, your weight. It's connected to everything.
Awesome. Well, would you mind sharing where somebody can find more about Routine, websites or social media handles you may have?
Yeah, it's just Routine, ROOTINE.co. And that is Routine is our handle on all social as well. You'll find us there.
So check out Routine. They do have some nice mocktails, sleepy time. So now you're having to take a pill, and then also they do have your sleep supplement as well, where it's a combination which may be really good. So, and thank you for sharing more about circadian health and why it's important, why we need to optimize it. And thank you so much again for joining us on the Back on Track Achieving Healthy Weight Loss podcast. Now, if you all like this episode, please share with others. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll put her information in our show notes so you can go and check out routine.co. All right. Thank you all and have a great day.